Prepare for warp speed as we embark on a voyage through the vast expanse of science fiction in movies and television series. From distant planets to alien civilizations, we delve into the heart of the unknown, unraveling the tales that have captivated audiences for generations. Get ready to unlock the secrets of the universe on Code Flix.
Hello and welcome to Code Flix, the podcast where we take a deep dive into your favorite sci-fi and fantasy TV shows and movies. I'm Andre Bonner, and in today's episode, we'll be traveling to a future by way of the past in the movie Back to the Future. This movie has been talked about by my friends for quite a while. When I was younger, I was finally able to watch it as part of a marathon one weekend. When I was in high school. It was then that I realized what all the fuss was about. It was a lot more immediate than I thought. Back to the Future is a 1985 American sci-fi film directed by Robert Zemeckis and written by Zemeckis and Bob Gale. It stars Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thompson, Crispin Glover, and Thomas F. Wilson. Set in 1985, it follows Marty McFly, a teenager accidentally sent back to 1955 in a time-traveling DeLorean automobile built by his eccentric scientist friend Emmett Doc Brown, where he inadvertently prevents his future parents from falling in love, threatening his own existence, and is forced to reconcile them and somehow get back to the future. Gale and Zemeckis conceived the idea for Back to the Future in 1980. They were desperate for a successful film after numerous collaborative failures, but the project was rejected more than 40 times by various studios because it was not considered raunchy enough to compete with the successful comedies of the era. A development deal was secured with Universal Pictures following Zemeckis' success directing Romancing the Stone, 1984. Fox was the first choice to portray Marty, but was unavailable. Eric Stoltz was cast instead. Shortly after principal photography began in November 1984, Zemeckis determined Stoltz was not right for the part and made the concessions necessary to hire Fox, including refilming scenes already shot with Stoltz and adding $4 million to the budget. Back to the Future was filmed in and around California on sets at Universal Studios and concluded the following April. After highly successful screen testings, the release date was brought forward to July 3, 1985, giving the film more time in theaters. During the busiest period of the theatrical year, the change resulted in a rushed post-production schedule and some incomplete special effects. Back to the Future was a critical and commercial success, earning $381.1 million to become the highest-grossing film of 1985 worldwide. Critics praised the story, humor, and the cast, particularly Fox, Lloyd, Thompson, and Glover. It received multiple award nominations and won an Academy Award, 3 Saturn Awards, and a Hugo Award. Its theme song, The Power of Love by Huey Lewis and the News, was also a success. Back to the Future has since grown in esteem and is now considered by critics and audiences to be one of the greatest science fiction films and among the best films ever made in 2007. The United States Library of Congress selected it for preservation in the National Film Registry. The film was followed by two sequels, Back to the Future 2, 1989, and Back to the Future 3, 1990, spurred by the film's dedicated fan following and effect on popular culture. Universal Studios launched a multimedia franchise, which now includes video games, theme park rides, an animated television series, and a stage musical. Its enduring popularity has prompted numerous books about its production, documentaries, and commercials. So now let's talk about the plot. In 1985, teenager Marty McFly lives in Hill Valley, California, with his depressed alcoholic mother, Lorraine, his other siblings who are professional and social failures, and his meek father, George, who is bullied by his supervisor, Biff Tannen. After Marty's band fails a musical audition, he confides in his girlfriend, Jessica Parker, that his fears becoming like his parents despite his ambitions. That night, Marty meets his eccentric scientist friend, Emmett Doc Brown, in the Twin Pines Mall parking lot. Doc unveils a time machine built from a modified DeLorean, powered by plutonium. He swindled from Libyan terrorists. After Doc inputs a destination time of November 5th, 1955, the day he first conceived his time travel invention, the terrorists arrive unexpectedly and gun him down. Marty flees into the DeLorean, inadvertently activating the time travel when he reaches 88 miles per hour. That's 142 kilometers per hour. Arriving in 1955, Marty discovers that he has no plutonium, so he cannot return to 1985. When exploring a burgeoning hill valley, Marty encounters his teenage father and discovers Biff was bullying George even then. George falls into the path of an oncoming car while spying on the teenage Lorraine changing clothes, and Marty is knocked unconscious while saving him. He wakes to find himself tended to by Lorraine, who becomes infatuated with him. Marty tracks down and convinces a younger Doc that he is from the future, but Doc explains that the only source available in 1955 capable of generating the power required for time travel is a lightning bolt. Marty shows Doc a flyer from the future that documents a upcoming lightning strike at the town's courthouse. As Marty's siblings begin to fade from a photo, he is carried with him. Doc realizes Marty's actions are altering the future and jeopardizing his existence. Lorraine was supposed to tend to George instead of Marty after the car accident. Early attempts to get his parents acquainted fail, and Lorraine's infatuation with Marty deepens. Lorraine asks Marty to the school dance, and he plots to feign inappropriate advances on her, allowing George to intervene and rescue her. But the plan goes awry when Biff's gang locks Marty in the trunk of the performing band's car. While Biff forces himself onto Lorraine, George arrives expecting to find Marty, but is assaulted by Biff. After Biff hurts Lorraine, an enraged George knocks him unconscious and escorts the grateful Lorraine to the dance. The band frees Marty from their car, but the lead guitarist injures his hand in the process. So Marty takes his place performing while George and Lorraine share their first kiss. With his future no longer in jeopardy, Marty hurries to the courthouse to meet Doc. Doc discovers a letter from Marty warning him about his future and rips it up. Worried about the consequences to save Doc, Marty recalibrates the DeLorean to return 10 minutes before he had left the future. The lightning strike sending Marty back to 1985, but the DeLorean breaks down, forcing Marty to run back to the mall. He arrives as Doc is being shot. While Marty grieves at his side, Doc sits up, revealing he pieced Marty's note back together and wore a bulletproof vest. He takes Marty home and departs to 2015 in the DeLorean. Marty wakes the next morning to discover his father is now a confident and successful science fiction author. His mother is fit and happy. His siblings are successful, and Biff is a servile valet in George's employ. As Marty reunites with Jennifer, Doc suddenly reappears in the DeLorean, insisting they return with him to the future to save their children from terrible fates. Here are some key themes and symbols in Back to the Future. Themes: time travel and its consequences. The central theme of the film is time travel and its potential impacts on the present and future. Marty's journey to the past demonstrates the butterfly effect, where even small actions can significantly alter the timeline. The film explores the idea of causality and the interconnectedness of events across time. Family and relationships. The importance of family and relationships is a recurring theme. Marty's interactions and his parents in the past allow him to see them as individuals with their own hopes and struggles. The film emphasizes how relationships shape who we are and how understanding our parents' past can lead to greater empathy and connection, personal growth, and self-discovery. Both Marty and his father, George McFly, undergo significant personal growth. George learns to stand up for himself and gain confidence, which dramatically changes his future. Marty's journey helps him appreciate his family and understand the impact of personal choices on one's destiny. The power of choice. The film highlights the power of choice, individual choices in shaping one's future. Marty's actions in the past not only influence his own life, but also the life of those around him. The film underscores the idea that we have the power to change our destinies through our decisions and actions. Innovation and progress. The theme of innovation is embodied by Doc Brown and his time-traveling DeLorean. The film celebrates scientific curiosity, creativity, and the pursuit of knowledge, while also cautioning about the unintended consequences of technological advancements. Symbols. The DeLorean. The DeLorean time machine is the iconic symbol of the film, representing the fusion of everyday life with extraordinary technological possibilities. It serves as a vehicle, literally and metaphorically, for the film's exploration of time travel and its consequences. The clock tower. The Hill Valley Clock Tower is a central symbol representing the passage of time and the pivotal events that shape the town's future. The clock tower's lightning strike is a key plot device that enables Marty's return to the future, symbolizing the power and unpredictability of nature. The photo. The photo of Marty and his siblings serves as a visual representation of the changing timeline. As Marty's actions in the past threaten his existence, the photo begins to fade, symbolizing the fragility of timeline and the direct impact of his actions on the future. The flux capacitor. The flux capacitor, the core component of the time machine, symbolizes significant scientific innovation and the quest for breakthroughs that can change the world. Its unique design and mysterious function add to the film's sense of wonder and adventure. The guitar and rock and roll. Marty's guitar and his impromptu performance of Johnny B. Good at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance symbolizes youthful rebellion, creativity, and the influence of popular culture. His performance inadvertently inspires Chuck Berry, linking the past and the future of rock and roll. 1950s Americana. The film's depiction of 1950s America and its diners, fashion, and social norms symbolizes a nostalgic look at the past while also highlighting the cultural changes over time. It serves as a backdrop for exploring how societal values and personal relationships evolve. Back to the Future masterfully blends humor, adventure, and science fiction to explore themes of time travel, family, personal growth, and the power of choice. Its memorable symbols such as the DeLorean, the clock tower, and the flux capacitor enrich the narrative and underscore the film's exploration of consequences on our actions across time. The movie's enduring appeal lies in its imaginative storytelling, relatable characters, and the universal themes that resonate with audiences of all ages. This movie features a memorable cast of characters, each contributing to the film's enduring appeal. Here's a character analysis of the main characters. Marty McFly, played by Michael J. Fox. Marty McFly is a typical 1980s teenager with a love for rock and roll music and skateboarding. He is charismatic, adventurous, and resourceful, often using his quick thinking to navigate the complexities of time travel. Marty's character is defined by his loyalty to his family and friends, particularly his bond with Dr. Emmett Brown. His journey from a teenager with a seemingly average life to someone who significantly impacts his family's future highlights themes of personal growth and the impact of individual actions. Dr. Emmett Doc Brown, played by Christopher Lloyd. Doc Brown is an eccentric and brilliant scientist who invents the time-traveling DeLorean. His character is characterized by his enthusiastic and often manic demeanor, as well as his deep friendship with Marty. Doc's inventiveness, and his willingness to take risks drive much of the film's plot. Despite his often chaotic approach, he is deeply committed to the principles of science and the well-being of his friends. His mentorship of Marty adds a layer of depth to his character, showcasing his caring and protective nature. Lorraine Baines, McFly, played by Leah Thompson. Lorraine is Marty's mother, who is depicted in two different time periods. In 1985, she is portrayed as a disillusioned and somewhat depressed woman, but in 1955, she is a lively and optimistic teenager. Lorraine's character arc explores themes of transformation and the impact of choices on one's future. Her interactions with Marty, who she doesn't realize is her future son, add a humorous and poignant layer to the story. George McFly, played by Crispin Glover. George McFly is Marty's father. Initially shown as a timid and ineffectual man in 1985, In 1955, is a shy and awkward teenager, often bullied by Biff Tannen. George's character undergoes significant development, particularly through Marty's inventions. His journey from a passive individual to someone who stands for himself and his future wife, Lorraine, is a central theme of the film, illustrating the power of self-confidence and bravery. Biff Tannen, played by Thomas F. Wilson. Biff is the film's antagonist, characterized by his bullying and domineering personality. In both 1985 and 1955, Biff represents the obstacles that the McFly family faces. His character is a classic bully who thrives on intimidating others. The transformation in his character in the different timelines highlight the film's theme of how the past influences the present and the future. Jennifer Parker, played by Claudia Wells. Jennifer is Marty's girlfriend and represents a source of emotional support and motivation for him. Although her role in the first film is relatively minor, her character helps ground Marty and provides a sense of normalcy amidst the chaos of time travel. These characters each contribute to the film's exploration of time travel, family dynamics, and personal growth. The interplay between them drives the narrative and adds depth to the film's engaging and often humorous story. Here's a detailed overview of production and design of Back to the Future. Production. Directors and writers. Directed by Robert Zemeckis. Written by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale. Cast. Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly, a teenager who accidentally travels back in time. Christopher Lloyd as Dr. Emmett Dot Brown, as an eccentric inventor who creates a time machine. Leah Thompson as Lorraine Baines McFly, McFly's mother. Crispin Glover as George McFly, Marty's father. Thomas F. Wilson as Biff Tannen, a bully who antagonizes George and Marty. Filming locations. Filming primarily took place in California, with significant locations including the Universal Studios backlot, which served as the fictional Hill Valley. The exterior of Hill Valley High School was filmed at Witter High School in Witter, California. Design, visual effects and cinematography. Visual effects supervised by Industrial Light and Magic (ILM) included innovative techniques for the time travel sequences and the DeLorean's flux capacitor effects. Cinematography by Dean Condley emphasized vibrant colors and dynamic camera movements to create a sense of energy and excitement. Set design. Production designer Lawrence G. Paul created distinct looks for the different time periods, 1955 and 1985, ensuring they were recognizable yet related. Key sets included the town square of Hill Valley, which was dressed differently to reflect the changes between 1955 and 1985. Costume design. Costume designer Deborah Lynn Scott crafted outfits that highlighted the key differences between the 1980s and the 1950s. Marty's iconic outfit includes a red puffer vest, which becomes a running joke in the film. The costumes for the 1950s characters were meticulously designed to reflect the fashion of the era, adding authenticity to the period scenes. Sound design and music. The musical score by Alan Silvestri is one of the film's standout elements, with its iconic and adventurous main theme. The soundtrack includes memorable sounds like The Power of Love by Huey Lewis and the News, which become synonymous with the film. Back to the Future explores themes such as the consequences of time travel, the importance of family, and personal destiny. The narrative follows Marty McFly's journey to ensure his parents fall in love after he accidentally interferes with their first meeting, thereby securing his own existence. Critical reception. The film received widespread acclaim for its inventive plot, engaging performances, and impressive special effects. It was praised for its blend of humor, adventure, and heart. Box office success. Back to the Future was a commercial success, grossing over 381 million worldwide, making it the highest grossing film of 1985. Awards. The film won the Academy Award for Best Sound Effects, Editing, and received nominations for Best Original Screenplay, Best Sound, Best Original Song. Cultural impact. Back to the Future became a cultural phenomenon, spawning two successful sequels, an animated series, theme park rides, video games, and a stage musical. The film's influence extends to various aspects of popular culture, including numerous references and homages in other media. Back to the Future sets a high standard for science fiction and time travel films, blending intricate plotting with relatable characters and humor. Its innovative approach to storytelling and special effects has inspired countless filmmakers and remains a benchmark in the genre. The film's success demonstrated the potential for combining high concept science fiction with mainstream appeal, influencing a genre of movies and TV shows that explore similar themes and concepts. So here's my analysis and interpretation of a film. The film opens with a series of clocks and Marty enters Doc Brown's lab. Marty plays an electronic guitar, causing an explosion, establishing his love for music and his friendship with Doc. Of course, this scene was very hilarious opening for a film like this because, you know, he had all of the contraptions set up to feed and Einstein his dog, right? That's Doc. And it would seem that for the time that he's been away, Einstein hasn't eaten a thing, right? It was one of them things where you said, why why you set up all of this just not make any sense, you know? But it was a good way to like open and to show that Doc hasn't been the best scientist per se. He hasn't had a good hit in that terms of the word. Yeah. Marty returns home, showing his dysfunctional family. His father, George McFly, is bullied by his supervisor, Biff Tannen. His mother, Lorraine, is an alcoholic reminiscing about the past. Yeah, this was really sad to see, especially the fact that you see his father being actively bullied right in front of him, and it's almost like the bully, Biff, him no care what him doing. Him just a try for us get George to do what him want, basically. And George, in turn, doesn't seem to be even the slightest aware of the impact that this is having on his children, a greater effect, or it is affecting Marty. Marty meets Doc Brown at Twin Pines Mall late at night. Doc reveals a DeLorean car modified into a time machine powered by plutonium. So, of course, by this time, we would realize that the plutonium wouldn't be in Doc's possession based on that little scene at the beginning where we saw the box underneath the bed. And now we are realizing that Doc will do anything to achieve his ends in this scenario. He's trying to make a time machine, and he's doing every little thing. He's putting things together. And you can see this kind of idea of putting things together haphazardly, or have at least having like stuff that you can find around the house, or things that you can find here and there, to put that together to make the machine. This scene also most gives rise to what it is that the relationship between Doc and Marty is like. For yes, we realize that they are close, but now we realize how much they will work with one another, and the fact that they are like the best of friends, because they obviously would have made up their mind that, hey, I'm gonna go and do this. We're gonna do this with you. We're gonna make sure, say, no matter what time, no matter where you say, I'll be there. That's how Marty basically look at it, because, and yeah, he kind of had a pushback and say, boy, at 1 o'clock, but, are you sleeping, Marty? That kind of thing. So it really does pique your interest into what, their relationship is like, what it is. It has brought them to this point. Doc shows how the time machine works by sending his dog Einstein 1 minute into the future. Marty learns that the car requires 1.21 gigawatts of power and plutonium to travel through time. So this is where we get to see the demonstration, and it's very funny, that Doc, a scientist, will be using his dog, and to be, I mean, like, it's a little bit, funny, but at the same time, it's what you say, boy, I know, man, this is kind of careless. You don't want to, potentially fry Einstein, as Marty saw the demonstration being happening. He was like, did you just incinerate Einstein? Did Einstein just, die or something? What happened to Einstein, basically? So it is like, you have to be wondering, how far Doc is going to go with these things, or is it that he would have been doing his pre-checks and doing all of the different validations that he needed in order to get there? Yeah. Then you have the Libyan terrorists. The terrorists from which Doc stole the plutonium arrive, shooting Doc. Marty escapes in the DeLorean, accidentally traveling back to 1955. Yeah, I mean, when we saw the Libyan terrorists turn up and we see the kind of shenanigans going on, we say, okay, probably, nothing not gonna really happen here. So, and then we saw Doc being shot. I was like, wow, I was stunned. It came out of nowhere. I didn't expect to see this in a PG movie at that time. And to have Marty have to now, try and escape and not knowing where to go. Of course, him just jumping at the DeLorean and, travel up to 88 miles per hour and end up in the past, which is, a good way to kind of just propel the narrative forward, a good way to make the story seem seamless in going forward, in terms of, probably I'm gonna set it up where I'm saying, all right, I'm going to just do that, and because it was Doc who was going to initially go back in time, but then we noticed that didn't happen because, of course, Doc died at that point. Marty crashes into a farm initially mistaken for an alien. He drives to Hill Valley and hides the DeLorean. So Marty comes crashing literally through the time barrier, right? Ends up in at a farm because that's where the Lone Pile Mall would have been in an era with, and that makes a whole lot of sense, right? Logically, it would have been an area with a lot of space that they would have as the mall. And this is where Marty would have come in and, you know, came out of the DeLorean looking like some weird outer space thing, right? Which the little boy came with his comic showing exactly what Marty looks like, right? Yeah. And after that, now Marty fled the scene, and as he's fleeing the scene, he crashed through one of the pines. So when we had the Twin Pine malls before, now we have Lone Pine malls. Yeah. So Marty meets his teenage father, George, being bullied by Biff. Marty saves George from being hit by a car instead of getting hit himself and taken to his young mother's house. That's Lorraine. Yeah, so that whole bit happened, right? So Marty explores the town at this point and he finds his father in a diner. That's his younger father looking at him. You can really see, the that it didn't take much for them because, of course, the actor who was playing George, all they had to do was to take off all the makeup and stuff that they would have put on him to age him. So, with today's day and age of doing the de-aging technology, people would use probably some techniques to kind of make people look younger or something like that. But it was a simple switching, and it really sold it for me because the man never looked any any way different in terms of age, and it really did sell that whole idea of him being that old. Yeah, as well as his mother. So Lorraine would have been there to take care of Marty when he got hit by her father's car, and she immediately falls in love with him, and you can see it, and it's creepy, yeah, but at the same time, it's kind of crazy because you're saying, okay, this is how she's behaving and how she would have described herself, back in the future to Marty to lead you to believe that she was this different type of girl. But here we're seeing that this is who she is, and she was just trying to probably not wanting them to, her children, that is, to follow her role. But yeah, that happens, and it brings about some complications. Lorraine develops a crush on Marty, and it complicates the timeline because now, instead of George being hit by the car and Marty coming because of that union, that marriage, it seems now that Marty is his own grandpa. I'm just kidding. Is now his father because Marty has interrupted that. So Marty tries to find Doc. He seeks out Doc Brown and convinces him of his identity with the knowledge of the flux capacitor. They devise a plan to use the lightning strike to power the DeLorean for Marty's return to 1985. Yeah, I mean, that whole sequence where Marty goes to the house and basically try to convince Doc that, hey, I am from the future. You actually made something. You actually created a time machine and so on. Yeah, it was good that he was able to get the video footage and all of that to show, but just the way how, it started just trying to explain that something that Doc could have shared with Marty that, hey, we did have a dream about the flux capacitor after being hit on the head, you know, very insane way to do it. But you get a visual basically, and then he can be able to understand, hey, this was always meant to be. This is what it is, Even Doc was cheering that, hey, this is something that I finally get to create. This is something I actually did right. So Marty enrolls at Hill Valley High School to ensure his parents fall in love. He struggles with Lorraine's infatuation and George's lack of confidence. Yeah, so this even makes it even worse though, because now Lorraine is exposed to Marty now even more. And George is that type of person that has always been this laid back person. Seeing Lorraine wanting Marty instead of him, or paying attention to Marty more than him, has basically just put him down a peg, just like, and so he doesn't even want to try. So Marty has his work cut out for him because he has to teach his father, his younger father, how to have confidence and to get over his fears. And yeah, one of the unique ways to get over your fears is to traumatize you and in the weirdest way possible, because Marty decides to go to George's house, a room at night, and wake up George in a big line, wearing the hazmat suit that he brought with him from the future, and trick him into believing that he's Darth Vader, come to melt his brain. So you can see the influence of Star Wars, right? Very, very influential film there. So the plan is in motion to try and ensure that Marty's parents get together. Marty devises a plan for George to rescue Lorraine from Marty advances during the enchantment under the sea dance. So, it basically explained to George, say, hey, you need to come in. You're going to see me in the car. I'm going to try and grope her, and she's not going to like it. That's what Marty thinks. And so you're going to come, George, and you're going to say the lines I give you, and you're going to punch me out. And then she's going to be like, yay, George, and they fall in love. But yeah, that's the plan, right? So Marty coaches George on how to be confident and win Lorraine's affection. At the dance, Biff confronts Marty, locking him into a trunk. George musters the courage to rescue Lorraine from Biff's advances within her heart. So Marty is there, executing his part of the plan. George is a bit late, so Biff comes, takes out Marty, tells his inbreeding him, say, yo, take him and go, carry him go away. Nigga carry him go lock him up in the trunk back, and while they're, they find themselves in a unique situation of confronting the guys who come to play music for the prom. And one of the guys, he was a lead guitarist. He plays with his hands, of course. So if him in Jim hand, then that means say party done, can't play no music. So Marty performs Johnny Be Good at the dance, ensuring that his parents kiss, and thus restoring the timeline, his existence. George would have been, prior to this, would have been able to beat Biff, and Lorraine and him end up dancing, and of course they kiss, sealing the deal, of course. So Marty and Doc now synchronize the DeLorean with the clock's tower lightning strike. Marty writes a warning letter. So he had written this letter to Doc to say, "Hey, Doc, this is what's going to happen in the future," because he's been trying to tell Doc what happens to him. But Doc says future events, him not really need to tell him about it because it's going to threaten the time continuum in that way, right? But of course, by doing all of this, they would have been threatening the time continuum. Anyways, Doc tears up the letter, and Marty goes into the DeLorean and heads back to the future. The lightning strike hits the DeLorean, and he's sent back to 1985. Of course, Marty would have set the DeLorean time to 10 minutes before Doc gets struck, right? So that he's able to save Doc. But of course, anytime you use the DeLorean, it runs out of juice. So if you're going to the future, to the past, you have to have extra plutonium, extra energy, and so on. So, of course, Marty doesn't realize that, hey, he runs out of juice, him can't even start the car, can't even move. So he has to run to the mall. Marty arrives at the mall too late to save Doc from the terrorists, but discovers Doc wore a bulletproof vest, having read Marty's letter. And of course, we know that he didn't, in fact, tear up the letter and discard it into a million places. He pasted them together and had it all this time. So he would have known that what was happening would have happened, and that's how he would have had the bulletproof vest. And basically that would have been the end of it. Marty returns home to find his family life improved. George is confident and successful. Lorraine is happy, and Biff is subservient. Yeah, so in a twist of events, he wakes up and realizes that his family, his life has been transformed based on his actions. He end up with a nice sport utility vehicle, right? And of course, Jennifer would come, right? And they would be thinking about going out on their next date. Doc arrives in a modified DeLorean, taking Marty and his girlfriend Jennifer to the future, setting up the sequel. Yeah. Yep. I mean, for most movies that of these types where you see such a cliffhanger, you have to want to watch the second movie right after. You don't even want to wait to watch it, next week or next month or next year. So how they would have ended this, you see that there was more adventures to be had. You'd see that we're now going to the future, right? And what is happening to their children? Why Doc would have made such a pronouncement on them? It's your kids, Marty. That's it for my analysis and interpretations. So I don't have much unresolved mysteries to resolve because, of course, the next movie would have been clearing up most of that or adding to what I would have known. But there are still some theories that I have. Why did Marty love rock and roll so? it's perhaps allowed him to escape his reality. It was a way for him to move beyond his immediate understanding of reality, especially because of the trauma of living, knowing that your parents are not the best. Yeah, in most cases, that is for most persons, anyways. But to 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 see them not being able to live up to a certain standard, and especially where his father is concerned, to be under Biff's thumb, and not being able to help himself or to show Marty that, hey, despite all that's happening, things could be better. George just seems to be off in its own world. He doesn't seem to be able to connect well with his kids or with DeLorean any at all. And they've been married for years. What was the clock being slow experiments for? So the experiment where Doc has the clocks up on the mantelpiece and Marty, thinking that about 25 minutes when actually I'm late. But I don't know how you end up not realizing that you're late. But that experiment was really referenced anywhere else in the film. But to me, it just seems to be perhaps one of those things that Doc would have been doing as a precursor to the major experiment of his, with the DeLorean. And that's why when he called and he asked Marty about the time, he was, trying to get the data now to say if actually what he expected to happen is happening. And it seems that what he expected to happen was happening, because he was excited and say, wow, it's 25 minutes slow, And I'm thinking that would have been what would have led him to now be more confident in the fact that the DeLorean is now ready to be used as a time machine. Why was Doc Brown away from his place so long? Now, the idea would have been, yes, he would have been off fixing the DeLorean. That's one idea. That's a good idea. But the other possibility is that he was also hiding from the Libyans, because, say, they are probably expecting their nuclear device to have the real plutonium, and he gave them something fake. I don't know how them takes so long for realize it's fake. What they were intending to do with it at the time. They didn't expound on that part. But to me, that would make a lot more sense as well, because I'm thinking that he could have worked on it there, especially because in the past, when we see him in 1955, where was he working on the DeLorean to get it ready for Marty to go back to the future in his house? So why would he be off somewhere else in the future trying to make adjustments and fix the DeLorean? Yeah, probably that raises another question there, but that's what I'm thinking. Did the Doc from the previous timeline know he would be killed? I think this time would, the timeline would flow in a linear path. And that even going back to 1955 was a part of the future. So I'm thinking that the way how we would think progression of things would be from beginning to end or from the start to a finish. Perhaps what is happening is it would be happening in real time. So when Marty goes back in time, no matter how long he spent a week back in time, but it was a part of his future. And by an extension, him going back to the future after altering the past would have made the future change from then on. So that's why they came back, when he came back to the future, he would have seen Lone Pine Mall instead of Twin Pine Mall because he would have taken out one of the trees, the pine trees. So it was a part of that progression. And it's something that I don't want to talk about it too much because this will be going into the other sequels, but it's something that we would have noticed eventually. But this was, even just watching this film, it brings to mind that that is what is happening. Was Marty destined to travel in time? And I think perhaps in some ways you can say yes, because not just because of the way how they wrote it into the movie, but because the way how Marty's life was going, there were certain things that would have to eventually happen. And that would be that at some point, George would have to become a different person, meaning that he would have to change his ways from being just this man that settles for nothing and then becoming the man who we saw at the end of the film, based on the fact that he was given that guidance. And even in the past, we saw that he was given some kind of guidance. Persons, basically would have probably talked to him, Mr. Strickland being one of them, and the other gentleman who would have run for mayor in the future, the black guy. Don't remember his name right now, but he would have given, some kind words and said, George, you can't let them people just continue to push you around. You need to stand up for yourself. Right? But because Marty probably knows George the way how he knows his father, and he has been seeing him being bullied for the whole of his life, perhaps, to that point. So he understands what it requires to get George to pick that path of becoming the more confident man that he is, despite all of the things that was happening around him. So I would say, yes, he was destined to go on the path. But then, even so, at some point, I think it's because of what Marty was seeing around him that he realized, say, hey, when you talk to my father about this, why are you like this? And many of us have done that with our parents. We have confronted them on, especially when you reach a certain age, and you realize, say, you have to talk to them about some of the things that you don't particularly like, and you feel that it needs to get off your chest anyways. So, and I think it's a good message to send to persons. You can always give guidance to people, even if they are hundreds of years older than you. No one person knows everything. So that's how I see it. As I said, this one was going to be short in terms of my theories, right? And it is share your own favorite moments, whether you agreed or disagreed with my favorite moments and my theories, whether you thought that some of them made sense or they didn't. So in this episode, we looked at Back to the Future, the movie from 1985. We looked at the themes and symbols that make up this iconic movie. We looked at the characters and how their role was perfectly fit for this film. We looked at the production and design and what went into making such a wonderful, interesting, and educational film. Talked about some of my analysis and interpretations of this film and the theories that I have. So at this time, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe and follow the podcast for future deep dives in a world of science fiction. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the support. We're on a road to 500. Let's do it, guys. See you next time.